What's up guys, my name's Stu, and today we're talking about the Risian Ground build. Now this build is nothing new, it's been tossed around all over the place since last year's summer event when they introduced the new Risian kit frames, but I figured I'd take some time to talk about it again. The build revolves entirely around the Risian kit frames. The ones from last year, not the new Volcanology ones, don't worry about those. The reason for that is because of its proc. If you use one of the Risian kit modules, you have a 20% chance to trigger any of the other existing kit modules from the Risa event. So the idea is to put a bunch of Risian kit modules onto this frame and then you maximize your chances to get the proc. Another reason these kit frames are really cool is because they can actually be re-engineered, which is very rare for kit frames. This means it's extremely easy to get desirable mods onto the kit frame. And by desirable mods, I mean kit performance. Here it is, the Risian Ground build. Like I said earlier, the idea behind this build really isn't that complex. You just use a bunch of Risian kit modules to get the most out of the Risian kit frame's proc. This first kit module is actually the only one on the build that isn't from the summer event. Mud's time device is actually from the Discovery reputation, and it's only here to help with the cooldowns of the other kit modules. Lowering their cooldowns means I'll be able to use them that much more often, which means more chance to trigger the kit frame's proc. Next is Ball Lightning. If you're only going to pick up one of the Risian kit modules, let it be this one. It creates 4 balls of lightning around you that just wander around and deal electrical damage to anything that gets too close. The lightning balls are also considered separate entities, meaning the board won't be able to adapt to them. Also, it's a universal console, so any career can use it. It's actually really nice on any type of build just due to how powerful it is. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the combat log. Next is another universal console, Sandstorm Generator. This lets you place a device on the ground that generates a sandstorm that deals kinetic damage, which you then kick over to your target. It does a good amount of damage, but the animation it requires you to go through is kind of long, which can be kind of annoying. It's still worth using though. These next two are exclusive to engineers, Hurricane Turret and Cyclonic Generator. Hurricane Turret does pretty much what the name suggests. You place it down and it creates a small hurricane that will deal cold and electrical damage to anything that gets too close. This one's also nice because it has a really low cooldown. Cyclonic Generator is similar in that it makes a big windstorm, except this one makes several small cyclones that spread out over 3 meters and deal physical damage. The cyclones can also pull targets in, so it has a little bit more range than the Hurricane Turret. And now the centerpiece of this build, the Risian kit frame. Not only is this one of the few kit frames that can be re-engineered, but it also features a buff to your ranged weapons depending on how many Risian kit modules you have equipped. However, the text in the tooltip for that second bit is a bit misleading. The buff has a hidden cap, so your ranged weapons are only going to benefit from 2 Risian kit modules, though the reason to use more of them is to maximize your chances of triggering the proc. Whenever I activate a summer kit module, I have a 20% chance to randomly activate another kit module effect. That includes the effects of summer kit modules you don't have equipped. These next pieces are pretty standard for DPS ground builds. Burnham CQC armor for its buffs to crit chance and crit severity, this comes from the Discovery reputation. The Nakul Temporal Operative shield for its time slip ability, and for its 2-piece bonus with the assault weapon, which gives me more crit chance and severity. The assault weapon is just there for the set bonus, I don't even use it in combat, which is why it's not upgraded. The weapon I did choose to use is one of the 32nd Century phasers. The proc on this gun gives me a little extra help with my kit cooldowns. Though when fighting the Borg, I'd probably switch to something non-adaptive, like Cochrane Shotgun or the Tommy Gun replica. In the devices, I've just got a bunch of combat pets, they're not really that important, use what you like there. But I'm also using the Rainbow Tribble, which is also from the Risa event. Activating this gives me a small crit chance buff that increases for every other person on the team also using the Rainbow Tribble. I'm sure plenty of people will say the gambling device is better because it also offers crit severity, but this is easier to get, and the gambling device has a 50% chance to fail, which frankly I find really annoying and just can't be bothered to deal with. For my specializations, I was using Temporal Operative Primary and Commando for my secondary, though when doing randoms most people are going to default to using their space specializations. Don't worry, you'll be fine with those. In the personal traits, first we have Adaptive Offense for its critical chance buff that turns into a crit severity buff and back, Assault Drone Fabrication, which gives my support drones a wide beam attack, Serenity for a little extra kit performance, Creative for additional kit performance, Dulce et Decorum Est for the bonus damage buff, Field Technician for the kit readiness, Hive Mind for the bonus damage buff, Orbital Devastation, which turns my Orbital Strike into Orbital Chasing Beam, this is a must-have for engineers, Technophile for more kit performance, and upgraded gear for even more kit performance. In the ground reputation traits, first I have Deadly Aim for the crit severity buff, Lethality for the crit chance buff, Personal Energy Amplifier for the bonus damage to my kits, Magnified Armaments for the bonus all damage, and Tyler's Memories for its bonus damage buff to my weapons based on my distance to my target. Though I might swap this out for Miniaturized Chrono Capacitor for their kit module recharge speed. In the duty officers, first we have Neil Faulkner and Elder Malkatan. Both of these are only here because their effects also work in space, so there's really not much to say about them. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this armory officer's name, but he's here to help with the recharge of my turrets and my support drone. Though honestly, I'm not even sure if he's actually affecting the turrets on this build. This is one of those older duty officers that hasn't been updated for some of the newer kit modules, so it may not be working, but at the very least, he's helping out my support drone. I thought about swapping him out, but I couldn't decide on what to substitute in, so I just left him there. This fabrication engineer gives me a chance to spawn in additional support drones whenever I trigger that. A transporter officer that decreases the recharge time on my combat pets and consumables, and Schroeder the randomly transporting Saurian. Honestly, the DPS you get from this guy is really low, but he amuses me, so he stays. Now, before we move on to the bug hunt, some of you may have noticed I'm not using any of the new stuff that was released for the Ryza event this year. There's a reason for that. None of it's very good. The Volcanology kit frames give immunity to fire damage and gas protection, as well as some toxic damage resistance, but that's about it. Toxic and fire damage are both exotic damage types, so you're not going to come across those very often, and the gas protection is only going to be useful against Alachi. It's also important to note that the fire damage immunity does not count against the environmental fire damage you get on the Nukara ground zones. So don't be under the impression you're going to be able to recreate the volcano scene from Star Trek Into Darkness with these things. Not how they work. The Tsunami Generator kit module is absolutely pathetic. Its damage is pathetically low, the cooldown is ridiculously long, and the knockback that it describes in the tooltip appears to be non-existent. This kit module is so bad I honestly wonder if it's bugged. And lastly, the Transcendent Tribble. I love that they introduced a Tribble with Transpride colors, but it's a real shame that they didn't give this thing a better effect. It gives a chance to remove control effects every second it's active, and that percentage will increase for every person on the team also using that Tribble, but even then it maxes out at 2.5%, which isn't high. And honestly, who else is going to use this when there's the Rainbow Tribble or the Gambling Device, both of which offer crit chance? You never have too much crit chance. Yeah, that's the new stuff for the 2021 Ryza event. You can pick what you like, but honestly, it's not as great as last year's. Now let's move on to the bug hunt and then the combat log.
step. I think. Cover me.
$1.17K is a solid run for Bug Hunt. Now, remember what I said about Ball Lightning being the most powerful kit module on the build? I wasn't kidding. If you look over here in the player analysis, you'll see Ball Lightning consisted of almost half of my total DPS. Kind of crazy how powerful this thing is. So yeah, that's the build. I hope you found it helpful, or at least gave you something to do on Rise besides grinding out the new ship. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff down below. I really do appreciate it. My name's Stu, and I can't think of a funny one-liner to end this on, so I'm just gonna leave it here. See you guys later.